Hi, well, I've made a series of films now on painting, drawing, pastels, all sorts of different mediums, and I think it's time that I moved on to some of the other skills that I share, the woodworking and the ceramics, the pottery. Let's start with the pottery here and we'll link the woodwork into it. Here you see in front, in fact, a few of the pots I'm making at present. At last I have a new atelier or studio in France here, and although it's not huge, I can start to make one or two more quality, interesting pieces, more creative pieces, and in doing so I can show you the techniques and methods involved. When we're talking about different bodies of clay, this might interest you as well, because here I've used the red earthenware clay and I've mixed it with some white stoneware come earthenware and kneaded the two together, twisted them to give a marbled effect. So here you can actually see the red earthenware body that we've just been talking about, and then the difference in that and an ordinary white clay when they're fired one to another. The red earthenware, of course, is just a natural clay that we can dig up from the soil, which the redness in it is the iron oxide. Stoneware clays are nearly all artificially made. Well, I'd like to show you how to throw pots on the wheel now. You can see the various sort of shapes we can make here. Everything on the wheel, of course, is spun and made from a cylinder. So, the bigger the cylinder we can make, the wider the pot we can make, the bigger the pot we can make. And we can even put pots together. In this case here, you see I've put one pot on top of another there, a pot I've thrown to there, a little one on top, and the same here. And then we put the handles and other appendages on afterwards. What I'm going to show you first of all is making a teapot. Now, they say if you can make a teapot, you're a reasonable potter, because it takes everything. You have to be able to throw the spout, you have to be able to throw the base, the body, and the lid, and pull a handle. So all the various parts of pottery on throwing and basics of the wheelwork are there. Before we make any pots, it's necessary to prepare the clay. In this case I've got the grey stoneware clay. It's almost black, but it fires white. You can see here some chalices I've already made on the wheel, where I've put the two halves together now and they're drying and ready to put in the kiln. But to prepare the clay we have to do something called kneading it, and you see these lumps here I've already prepared and made into a semi-oval shape to throw on the wheel. We knead them in this direction and then turn them sideways so the grain is with the spiral. Let me show you how that's done. I'll show you two techniques. One for the smaller guy doing little balls of clay, and one for the smaller guy like me with big lumps of clay. It's a Japanese method. Okay, here we have a plaster bat, a plaster block, and on that we'll be able to knead the clay. The plaster is absorbent, which means that it won't stick. So we'll take some clay out from the bag. Here it's just an ordinary lump of clay that's had some pulled off it already, and you see that it's not very even, it's got cracks in it. There are probably even the bubbles and lumps in it, and the intention of what we're going to do is to get rid of the lumps and bubbles, because it has to be absolutely even to work with. If there are bubbles in the clay, the air can expand when it becomes hot in the kiln and blow the pot up, and any impurities we don't want. If we're throwing a pot and there's a lump in it, it'll make the pot go like that. So we have to learn to knead it. Now this is called ox head kneading, with one hand each side, two hands like that in the palm of your hands. Get the thumbs out of the way for the moment. You push down with this part of the hand like that, and you twist forward. So you bring the whole thing, roll the whole thing forward, and you push down and twist. And you see it becomes the shape of an ox's head, we say. It's ox head kneading. The eyes, the horns and the nose. And we're going to twist the nose back into itself, bring it up and down with the hands and twist forward. And after a while you get very quick at it and proficient, and you do it this way. Now you can do that with quite a fair sized lump of clay, and it's bringing the clay from the middle to the outside, and it's called kneading, and it's very important. Now the other technique, we have a very large lump of clay. It's a Japanese technique for the little guy who has a huge lump of clay maybe like this. And it's possible to have a whole bag of clay like this and knead it in this technique by putting one hand over the other like that on there and twisting around and turning it like that. So the weight of the clay is always on the block, and all you're doing is moving one small part. Imagine this is a huge lump and we're moving one small part like this in a spiral motion, and gradually this will work through the entire lump of clay. So it's a very useful technique for doing a big lump of clay. I'm going to go back to the ox head again, so back to here. And this piece of clay is now ready for throwing, and I'll demonstrate a bowl for you later with it maybe. Here we go. Now when I've finished, roll it towards myself into a cylinder, thump it down that way up, pat it, and that's the way the spiral of the grain was going when I was kneading it. Put it back inside the plastic to keep it wet for the future use. Here we have a typical potter's wheel. There's a seat for me to sit on, and I can get my legs around the wheel top like that, and the wheel has a lever at the side and a foot pedal down here with which we can control the speed forward, faster or slower, and down there a handle which will make the wheel go one way, and if I put it in the middle it does nothing, and the other way it's in reverse. We normally have the wheel going anti-clockwise, so for throwing the wheel will really always be going anti-clockwise. Then I've got a small bowl of water in there because I'm going to need that for throwing with the pot to keep the clay lubricated. When throwing, the first thing we do is to throw the clay that we've already kneaded onto the centre of the wheel. So have the wheel slightly damp so it just sticks well. Now the hand movements for this, it's important that our arms rest on the side of the wheel here for support, because we have to keep them absolutely rock solid. So now the movement is to have one hand over the other like this. For me, being a right-hander, I have the wheel going anti-clockwise, which is the normal way. So my left hand over my right to push down on the clay to flatten it out, and then one hand around the other and squeeze inwards to bring it up. That's the movement. So one hand over like that to push down, and one hand around the other to pull up and squeeze it. Up and then down, up and then down, with the arms on the side of the wheel head here to keep rock solid, because if we keep solid, the clay has no choice but to go with us. After that, we have to find the centre by using our thumbs, so, or push down here with our fingers into the pot and outwards. The shape that we actually want to have is this shape. That's the cross section of the pot. So, and we're going to pull that shape upwards afterwards. So we make a ring in the base, which I'll show you later. Now the movement with the fingers for this is to have this, our longest finger, deep down inside, and the thumb here, and it reaches down to the bottom of that ring, and this finger goes at a right angle against the pot like that, this knuckle joint here, with the thumb against it to support it so we don't come off around the wheel like this. So thumb there, this finger here, bent like that, like this you see, so, against the pot, that finger inside, we go right to the bottom and we get hold of that ring and keep these two, finger and thumb, absolutely rock solid, and bring the ring gradually upwards and off the top without pinching like that, just gradually up. Then we go down again and make the ring again, and then we come up again as high as we can, keeping it vertical. If the pot starts to come outwards, we squeeze the pot inwards with our hands, which is called collaring. When we get the highest cylinder we can, then we can shape it. So you have to judge the amount of clay for the height of cylinder you want. Approximately 1 pound weight of clay for a pint pot, approximately. Okay, let's have a go at that, shall we? Now I want to make the shape of a teapot here, so I'm going to have to do the whole series of events, from pulling up to pulling out to then forming a lip. Here we go, we switch the wheel on and bring it to its fastest speed. Put some water over the top, one hand over the other, arms on the side of the wheel head, and press down, so. Keep the water lubricating the pot. Press down, so squeeze upwards, like that, and then press down, like that. Let your hand come around if you wish, so you feel the outside of the pot, and you see that this lump of clay is being moulded to a half sphere, almost a cone shape. Up from the bottom, squeeze, up, off, and down again, and feel around the clay, push down hard, put all your weight into your pressure onto the pot. Now, we want the width of the base of the pot formed now. So I want my teapot base to be about that wide. Here, do that with the bottom of my hands. Find the centre here with my thumbs, and then push down, keeping your arms on the side of the wheel all the time, almost to the bottom of the pot here, almost to the bottom. My thickness already. Now I come outwards with that finger. I come so to my thumb. So I keep my thumb here and pull outwards to my thumb, which gives me this ring shape like that in here. You see, there it's that thick, then I go thinner in here. Now if I pinch there, with this finger against my finger here, my thumb, so that's the movement again, and come upwards with that ring, you see how the pot has nowhere else to go but to come upwards. What I'll do is cut a cross section off that now to show you. I take the wire and I cut a piece out of here, so, and there you see the cross section where it's thinner here and thicker here. Now that's the thickness of the pot I'll actually finish up with, so I would be pulling up like this between my thumb and finger, so you see there I would come up between my fingers here, pulling this up so, until it was all of this thickness. Now collar it, keep the pot going inwards, put some more water down your fingers so it flows evenly down each side of the pot, and slow the wheel slightly now. And we bring the finger and thumb with the ring evenly upwards. And holding finger and thumb like that, and this finger across it, I can level off the top of that rim. Right. I can continue pulling straight up, but I want to make the basic rim of the teapot now. So I'm just going to put my thumb down on the inside here, push down slightly, so, because I want that bit of thickness left there for the future. You'll see why. There's the rim of my teapot already. Now, down inside the pot again, pour the water down my fingers so it's going on the inside and outside of the pot. Make the ring at the bottom, and keeping one arm on the side of the wheel head. Up we come. Make this tall cylinder. see how the pot is coming outwards, so I have to push it back again. Back. And again, watch this rim. Don't want to lose it. Now once again, bring it up, and that will make the pot thin enough, and I then have to bring it outwards for the teapot shape. So again, water down my fingers and thumb to the bottom, and now I'm going to brace my arm against my tummy here, both of my forearms now, like this. I'm not on the wheel side anymore down here, I'm up here. And I make a ring at the bottom, and again I come up with my knuckle joint this time against my finger on the inside. So that my knuckle joint on my right finger against my long index finger on the inside. Right to the top. Form the rim again. And water down my hand on the inside. Just make a rim at the bottom there. Gently bring the pot outwards. So instead of pulling up evenly now, I have my inside hand slightly higher than my outside, and I'm pulling the belly of the pot out. So, just form the lip. Again, from the bottom upwards, pull the belly out from the bottom. You can see it's coming out nice and evenly. More liquid on the outside, sticking with it. Slow down a bit now as well. The larger the pot, the slower we go. So we have a nice even curve for our teapot. Now I want to come a little bit higher on this neck. A bit straighter on the side of the body. Push that, the collar this in here. We can even make the pot talk to us, look. Hello. I wiggle my fingers. As long as I keep still, so will the pot. Just lost a bit there. So now we just form the top for the lid. Quite a large lid on this one. Inside this teapot and clean it fairly easily. You can have a smaller top if you want. As long as you keep your hands still, the clay has to go where your hands are. Okay, that gives us our teapot. Turn off the wheel. And now we want a bat, which is a piece of wood, not a flying mouse, to put the teapot onto. Bring that up close here. Put some water around the pot, take our twisted wire,
So, and pull the water under the pot. As much as cut the clay off the wheel, you are pulling the water under the pot, like so. You see how the pot then moves and floats away on the water. So, onto our hand, up onto the bat, for turning later. And turning we'll do separately to show you. Next I have to make the lid and then the spout. I'm going to measure the hole on the top of the pot for the lid so that I can get the lid the right size. That's that size. Now the piece of clay for the lid. Go straight onto the existing clay. Turn the wheel on again. Go fast. Do our centering again. This place is so small that all I have to do is move my hands inwards and downwards to centre it. Centre clay. Now make a dish, put my thumb into the centre, go down to the bottom, pinch outwards, pull it gently outwards between my fingers. I want this shape for the lid, put it in the reverse of what I just made. To make it wide enough now, that is the outside. The water, gently pinch it up and out. Voila, exact. Yes. Now I need to make this a little bit taller so it doesn't slide off. To make the inside of the teapot lid a little bit longer, so that when you tilt the pot, the lid doesn't slide away. So, do the measurements right all the time. Just perfect. That's the lid ready to be turned later. Turn the wheel off. Put water around again. Repeat the pulling the water underneath. So we've made a small bowl in reverse for the lid. Now it's just the spout. We shan't need very much clay for the spout. Again, a small bit of clay on the wheel. Forward. Full power. Centre the clay. Find the centre with your thumb now, so, like that, and then go right down to the bottom and actually touch the wheel this time. Go right to the bottom of the wheel because you want a hollow spout. Bring it straight up from there. Now we slow a bit, and we go to the width we want of the spout at the bottom. So I pull outwards here to that width. I want a fairly wide spout at the base, and then come upwards. So I would normally throw absolutely evenly. Now I'm going to show you a little trick now. Slow down. If, when you pull this in, it's not level, we can cut this off at the top, either with a needle in a cork, holding it like that, or with the wire across like that. That's what we'll do in just a moment. So we'll collar that now. We can collar like this or like this by squeezing inwards, you see. When you squeeze inwards, the clay becomes thicker. So, the more we squeeze in, the more we can put it up again. The more we squeeze in, the more we can put it up again. That could make us a nice bottle top there, you see. I want to carry on and make it even. And if I want to here, this is where I can trim the top off. Quite a neat way of doing it. Hold the wire across like that and just wet it and put it straight in, hold it and lift. You can come off with the piece of clay just like that. Top up. I want a slight angle to my spout, pulling out later like a jug lip. And I'm going to just collar it in again. Go it down, go back inside it again and push it in. Down my finger to keep it lubricated. In and then pull it up again. Now, I was saying about using a needle. Here's our needle. If I clean the end, wet it, I should be able to cut the tip of this off. So, and then tidy up. There we are. I've got spouts. I want to be a little bit wider here. We should cut that off at a slight angle later. Finished. Trim it at the bottom. If you want, you can use a turning tool for that. Turning tool maybe like this. Just go in, hold it, get your hand against the wheel side, so just trim at the base. Nice and neat, finished. Stop the wheel. Some water again and pull the wire through underneath so the water flows through, so, and again slide that off on top of the film of water onto your hand and away. Sauce are not quite ready, but the teapot is, so we're going to put that on the wheel now, just ready that is. I'm going to put it on the wheel and try and turn the base and then make the spout and the lid and everything else to go with it to show you how it's done completely. So there we go, just place carefully 3 lumps of clay around the teapot. Make sure it's as central as we can. A little more that way perhaps. Turn it on. And turn the base. Still very soft actually, push it manage. We'll try it. Quite a small base to it. Clean. Size base I want. So now we'll just make the inner ring. Deep. Just trim off this edge now. And we've got to go down to here. And all this waste clay. That's where I want to be. A nice bit of lift. It's turned over now on that foot rim, which should act like a gentle explosion. Shape to it, but I want a little bit more into here. A little more style, a little more lift. And then just in here. That's that. More of this edge. A little sponge to finish off with. Wet just to smooth it with a damp sponge. Nice and tidy. And there we go. There's a nice foot room for a teapot. Quite happy with that. Turn the wheel off. And we'll do the lid next while we've still got these pieces of clay on here. I'll show you how that's done. That's why we have these rings on the wheel, so we can see where the pot will centre. We have to be as near as exact as possible, otherwise the thing will be off centre and we'll have all sorts of a mess. That should be about right there. I'll have to keep it fairly well. So now quite firmly get these little bits of clay and hold it. Don't press onto the pot, press onto the wheel, but just gradually move them in. I can't go much lower than that. I can't go much lower than that, but I could add some clay on here and throw it up. Or the clay is still fairly soft. So what I'm going to do, watch carefully, is I'm going to throw this piece actually a bit higher. Pull it up if I can. Bowl reversed, and now pitching up this to make the handle. If I've got enough here to do it with, we'll see. I may have to add some clay. So I could do it like that, but I'm not only just happy with the size of that handle. I might have to add some more clay, I think. So what I'll do is just stop that a moment, simply take a little bit of clay off of what I've got here, and we'll use that to throw it up. Just slap it into there, and I'll throw that straight. To centre this piece of clay again, actually on the pot this time. Go down there, again to the middle, try and pull this lump of clay fairly even. And now you see I've managed to get that to come up around my finger. Level. There we are. It's a better size for this lid. and I will bring it up and over, so. And then take these away carefully, and if we're lucky we should be able to keep it on there and just clean it off with a sponge. And I've got one little bit of decoration I want to do in the middle here, just a slight bit of damage to the edge there which I can rectify with my finger. So we'll do that, get that sponge now and just clean it up. Just tidy it up like this. Time consuming, all of this work around that fraction. Just stop again. Now take a little ball of clay, just as purely for decoration, flatten him out and push that ball into the middle there, and afterwards take a piece of bamboo which has a hollow end, and we just press that down into there and make a nice little pattern. Now of course we could make a pattern with the pot, we could make those star shapes again, but I'm not going to in this case, so just leave it as it is. That will now fit onto the pot. The next thing we have to decide is where the teapot lid spout is going. Now remember, with the spout, the top of the spout is the level of the liquid, so if I had the spout down here, the liquid can only be that high, which would be a bit silly, wouldn't it? So we want the spout to be level with here. Also we need to look at the angle of the spout, which we can cut off afterwards. At the moment I have to look at the shape of this going onto here, so I'm going to finish there. I've got to cut this out to fit the shape of the pot. Which I'm now doing. That should about do. Get my way around. It is not. Take some more off here. Don't want too long a spout either. There we go, that's about right. Just got to trim the shape a little more. There we go, that's where it's going to go there. We can mould that on in a moment. The next thing to decide is the height of that lip. It's going to be that there. You can take that off now. And having decided that, see what's going to happen there now, can't you? We have to cut the holes for the tea to come through, or the tea not to come through in fact. So we mark this, just to mark where it's going to go around here. And then, with some drills, we need to cut tea staining holes to allow the water through, but not the tea leaves, or the tea bags, whichever it's going to be. Plenty of them. Remember to leave enough room here for the spout to be stuck on, because it has to cover this little piece here anyway, doesn't it? We don't cut out the whole piece, you see, we just cut out little holes for the liquid to come through. That should be plenty. I want it coming out a gallon a minute. There we are. Now some slip. Remember what slip was? Slip was the liquid clay of the same type we're working with. And here I have some slit ready made, as you can see, nice consistency. Just pop that down below, and we can put our spout into it, stop the edges, to glue it on. Because you can't use water, you have to use the liquid clay of the same type that you have made the pot from. Press that onto there. Just gently support on the inside, wiggle it on, the clay will fairly quickly stick. And then smooth it round with your finger. You shouldn't have to do anything else. You can add some more clay if you want to, depending on the joint and how well it fits, as to whether you need to put anything else in there, on there. But normally that will be enough. You can see the level of our pouring is about here, which is about right for what we want. You shouldn't have to do anything else. You can add some more clay if you want to, depending on the joint and how well it fits, as to whether you need to put anything else in there, on there. But normally that will be enough. You can see the level of our pouring is about here, which is about right for what we want. And voila! There's a little bit more clay. I just added a touch around the joint because I wasn't quite happy with the flow of that. So I put a little bit of clay just around the joint, smooth it on now. And voila, we have our spout. Same way of making a coffee one, except the coffee one is much higher and would be at a more of a steeper angle. Everything okay there? Yes. Slight problem inside, I'll have to sort out in a moment because some of the pieces I drilled have stayed very wet in there. I'm not going to allow the water through. It's a bit stupid. Right, all we need now is the handle. What we will do though is just sponge the end of the spout, and with a little water on my finger, this is my pinky for this, my little finger, and just pull over the end of the spout a fraction to give a slightly better pouring lip, you see? What I'm doing here, just pulling my finger over there and rounding it a bit to give a slightly better pouring lip there, look. And then we'll just finish off. That's it. Put the spout. Now for the handle. This is possibly as difficult as actually throwing on the wheel, and I'll make it look very simple, but we take a wedge of clay and slide our fingers in a circular motion around it with wet fingers, and you can make a round handle this way by keeping your fingers round, or you can make a flatter handle. I squeeze it one way harder than the other, so it's flatter that way and longer that way. Then I turn it round, wet my hand again, wet the clay and slide my hand down at the same time as squeezing like this. And you can see the handle now starting to pull down. It always amuses the children in school here. I think they think I'm milking a cow or something. But water on the clay and squeeze and pull. Squeeze, then turn it round and pull down. You can make as big a handle as you want this way. A huge one, that's quite a big handle now for a big pot. We've seen a jug earlier of mine that's had a handle made like this, but I'm going to make a smaller handle in this case. This is just to give you an idea. Just squeeze and pull down, and slide your fingers down the clay. I'm making a thumb mark in the middle like that at the same time. So thumb mark there, slide down, squeeze it inwards, slide it down, thumb mark there. You could put two thumb marks. You could even run a tool down here with a saw-shaped edge to give several lines. That's up to you. You've got all the choices you want.
but this pulls the grain of the clay downwards and gives you a very strong handle. Of course you need a very tiny handle for this particular job, so I'll just break off the bottom of that now, a bit more water, and continue down. I'll make a little bit longer handle, a little bit narrower now because it's quite a small handle for this pot, and then we'll just break it off and put it on. Right, there we are. All I have to do is break off this handle here. Now I could bend it and leave it there like that to go a little bit harder for later. Alright, if the pot is hard enough, which it just is, I can put it on here and now. Put it that way and just thumb on once, twice and a third time down here, and then bend it over like a waterfall flowing down, and it's still nice and sticky and wet. We don't need in this case to put slip on because the clay is so soft anyway. And voila, instant handle. Now beyond that is up to you. If you want to make anything fancier on that, of course you can do. You can add a little curl here, or there's all sorts of things you can do to make that fancier, but that's a very basic and simple handle for a mug or a small jug. And bigger ones, we might push them on and even thumb them onto it rather than just blend it twice like that. There are several ways we can do it, and I'll show you later in the film. Got my handle. Here we have again me pulling down a piece of clay, as I've shown you already, to make a handle. The thumb this way here, then that way to make it thinner, and then each side here to leave a line down the middle, like so. That should be about right. Let's have a look and see. Yes, you don't need a bigger handle than that, so I'll just finish that off and break the handle off there. And then we've got to add this handle to the pot. Now where do you want a teapot handle to come? Probably from here down to here. So if I put it over there like that, right over, give a lovely curve. There we are, that's a much better handle. One, two, three at the bottom. Now, just to make sure that these are joined properly here. Which I wasn't happy with just now. I'm going to put a little wedge of clay into here to support that handle a bit better. Not quite happy with that strength of that. There we are. There we are. We'll sponge that later. There we have our finished teapot. Here's a little sponging, and there we are. I'd like to look at something called applied decoration with you now. So we'll just take our little teapot on the banding wheel. It's a nice little teapot. Yes, we could do some fun decorations around it, but I want to show you something a little different this time. Again, we're going to work around the edge of the teapot here. Let's just mark that so I know where I'm going to be working at the correct level. I'll just take a little modelling tool. I'll just take a little modelling tool, and I'm going to put the decoration around here, so holding my hand still and just spinning the pot, get the same levels both ways. I'm going to bring the decoration around there, and we're going to make little balls of clay, push them on and just thumb them in, and you'll be surprised what a pleasant decoration that means. This is called, and you'll be surprised what a pleasant decoration that does. This is called applied. So if we apply the clay to the pot, it's called applied decoration. We can scratch into it, that's called sgraffito. There's all sorts of different decorations we can do, which we'll demonstrate as we go along in this DVD. The simplest way to make this is to take a piece of clay and just roll it out into a sausage, nice even sausage. And then, once we've got a sausage that's fairly even all the way down, if we just break off the same size pieces,
like this. Get a whole load. And then roll those into a ball, like that. We'll have all the same size little balls. You've got a lot of them. That's a very quick way of making approximately the same sizes. You just break off from the sausage. Can you see now that gives us approximately the same size little balls for the decoration, the applied decoration. I'll need my slip. So I've got my container of slip, the same slip as the pot. I'll put that just down behind it. And all we have to do is take these little balls, place them on here, one after another. So, right the way around the pot. On the other side. In the same positions. Some of you will know a plant called cuckoo pint. There's lots of little red berries that grows along the hedgerows come late summer, autumn. You could make a pot based on that in a similar way to these little sheep droppings, couldn't you? Pottery can be based on many things in nature, very useful, sea forms especially, I feel. I'm going to be doing a lot of my work about sea forms. There we go, they're equal now. All I have to do now is go around here, pulling down these little balls at an angle like that. Just one single flick of the finger, pulling and blending at the same time. So, so, so. And you could say that's it. It's quite pleasant like that. I'm just going to do a double take on that and just join them upwards as well, like this. Then we'll have a look at our design and see if it needs anything else doing to it. So, nice traditional country pottery. Not doing very fine porcelain, we're doing hand-built traditional pottery. I think it would be nice to bring these balls a little bit further round, so I'm going to halve one now and just place it here. The same the other side. Not quite sure the design is finished otherwise. And up and down again. That made quite a nice little pot. We might need two just here as well, just two very small ones, just to finish that design off there. So I'll mix a couple more, roll them, stick them on, just a little bit higher up in this case, roll and stick it on, and just join those two on to finish the design off to the handle. So there we are. Now a little bit of sponge just to smooth it down and in again, places like that for instance, just to link the design together a bit more. And it gives us rather a fun applied decoration. Applied. There we go. See here a lid that I've already made to go on a large cookie jar or cornichon jar, which is the little pickled gherkins I have here. That is upside down at the moment and thrown as a dish, and I'll turn it the other way up later to throw the handle on top, or turn it down on the lid of this one later. Okay, now we're going to make a casserole with a fluted edge. So I'm going to make a second band halfway up the casserole to make a curve in later on. Same thing again for throwing. We've thrown the big lump of clay on. Speed going, with our hands. Centre the clay, arms on the side of the wheel head. So much pressure it almost stops the motor. Just make sure you wedge the clay well first. There's a slight lump in this even though I've wedged it. Up and down, until it's absolutely central. When I finish these in the teapot, I'm going to show you two ways of putting handles on, because the handles for casseroles are quite different. See, we have the clay centred now, no lumps, no bumps. So I come in underneath a bit more, find the centre at the top, go down, almost at the bottom, then outwards. So now we have that shape again, ready to pull up, collar it a bit. Slow down, brace my arms against my side, could pull up from here like this, remember? Not doing a slightly taller pot, I'm going to go like this. My finger, instead of like this, is going like this, to pull up like that. Keep the arms absolutely rigid, make the ring at the bottom and pull it upward. Level the top. There's a slight unevenness in this clay that I want to pull out. Make the ring at the bottom again. Pull that ring upward. Now I showed you before how to trim an uneven top off. Wire like that, cross the pot, push it in, hold it, and just lift off the ring of clay. It's not satisfactory. There we are. Follow the top now. It's quite a large casserole, this one. So, slow the wheel again, and shape the rim a bit more here before I go on. It's the rim of our casserole. This rim I want to pull outwards to become the fluted edge. So I'm pinching it between my two fingers like this, as well as supporting it with my left hand to the pot rim. Now, inside the pot and outside water, make the lower ring again, and pull that upwards. Till you get it evenly thin all the way up, same thickness as I've got it on the top in fact. See why I want this flange here later on. Going to be a decorative feature. Okay, I've got that. Can I get any more height out of the pot? Just a bit more maybe. It's time to start widening the belly of the pot out. Slow down. Go to the very bottom of the pot and gently pull it outwards using my outside hand as a support. More height out of that yet. Plenty of clay there. There we are, there's our casserole shape. And what we'll do is tidy this lot up. Move this flange up. Nice and level. And the rim here with the lid. There we are. Unfinished casserole. We'll do that fluting later. Just use my finger to take some of the excess off the bottom for later. And again, turn the wheel off and move it onto a bat. Water around the pot, same way as usual. Now we make the lid for the casserole. Turn the motor on, forward, speed. Hands, one hand over the other, arms on the side of the wheel, press down, twist in and down, in and down, so the clay comes up, push it down. Now find the centre with our thumb, so push down. Level we want, outwards to make a bowl shape. I've already set my calipers at the internal measurement, so the actual rim of the pot that goes inside the lid has to be this width. So if I now come down and outwards slightly more, we should bring the whole thing outwards. I'm in control. So this piece used to be that wide, it's not yet. Out. Yep, perfect. So now we just have to neatly that. The calipers. Thought to be a little bit wider yet, so we'll just pull that out a bit more. Later, when I turn it, I can adjust that. There we go. Stop the wheel. Shan't turn the engine off this time because I'm going to be working much faster. More commercially. Water underneath the pot. Off onto my hand. You see how thick I've left. Now to put the edge on this casserole, the same as doing a jug, whereas you pull this across for a jug lip, 2 fingers outside, 1 inside. Here all I have to do is put my fingers one above the other like this and come around the edge to give this rather nice edge, a bit like the edge of a clamshell. And I can just neaten it up with a sponge afterwards just to get rid of these mucky finger marks. And with luck, we end up the same spot. Voila, there we are. Rather effective, don't you think? That's the first part of our casserole done. Well, these 3 casseroles are now just dry enough for me to put the handles on, so I'll show you how this is done. Here are my 6 handles that I've pulled ready to put onto the pot. Now if I take one of those handles, just come over to here and place this around this part of the pot here and go once so, and again the same here, so, and on the inside, once there, and then with my hand just bring that lip upwards slightly, and there we have it, as simple as that. Afterwards I'll come on with, again, one of my favourite little tricks, a little piece of bamboo, just to make a couple of patterns on the side there, and that's it. We have a handle for a casserole. Now I've got to the other side again. That's the only thing, we've got to keep things the same. And exactly on the other side, the same thing again. 1, 2, 1, 2. And bring that outward again and upward slightly to be able to lift it. And do a little trick here. And there we are. One casserole ready. I have to do the other ones around it. And here are the finished 3 casseroles with their handles on. Up until now I've been using an ordinary wheel head, this one, and it just slots on top of the machine. Just going to clean it up a moment. Run my thumb outwards here. Be clean. I'll just turn off a moment. The wheel heads just lift off, so, and I put on a special wheel head, which is this one. Now the beauty of this particular head It's for when you make very big pots and you can't have the wheel tied up with the pot staying there until it dries out enough to do anything with it. So we're able to take out this removable piece of wood at the top, this bat, which slots in over a little nodule there, and I can take that off and put another one in afterwards if I wish. Let's do just that and throw a tall vase on here. And I want this vase to be a bit different because I'm going to throw a vase shape, so a cylinder, a tall cylinder, but instead of making the lip in the very top, I'm going to cut the lip a little bit lower and attempt to bring it out and pierce the top as a new design altogether. It might work, it might not, but we have to experiment with these ideas, don't we? So just put a little bit of water on there, then get the clay. So already needed. And we'll throw a nice jug shape, a simple jug shape, a Roman style. There we go. Turn the wheel on. Put some welly. Clay's trying to be boss, so I've got to be boss. Tried to come off with me then even. With that. Get hold of it. Squeeze it down. Squeeze it up. We're the boss now. Squeeze it down. Up and down. Until you feel that it's malleable and there's no lumps. A bit like Tai Chi. You have to be a part of the universe, a part of the clay of you. You extend your energy down through your hands into the shape that you're throwing. So now I want quite a tall, narrow pot, so I need to squeeze it up more. So we don't want clay that's too soft to start off with, or we'd never get the shape up. Again, from the bottom up. So now we're ready to find the centre. Push it right down and in. It almost sucks your fingers in. Right down, almost to the bottom and pull out. Go a little deeper yet, not much. I'm just going through the bottom. Right, now I've got my ring shape in the bottom. Again, collar it. Slow the wheel down now. I'm ready to try and pull up a tall, high cylinder. The shape I want is going to be like this. That's what I would like. This is what we can get. I'm stand up, raise my arms across it. Raise this thumb against this hand and come upwards. Keeping absolutely still, the same thickness all the way up. Then water down my hand, make the ring in the bottom, push it in, come upwards. Collar the pot. Stand up again, pour the water down my hand, race the ring, nice even spiral throwing ring coming up the pot, you see, sign of a good pot. Bring my thumb across to brace. Coming up evenly, don't pinch off at the top. right to the top and come off so tense. Again, collar the top. Higher yet. Slightly lumpier at the top, I don't like. Deal with that later. Collar. Pour the water down my hand to the inside of the pot and on the outside. It's nice and lubricated. Make the ring come up. Slow the wheel down a bit now, it's going a bit fast. So we almost have the height for our jug now. A little bit faster. Follow this top in. Bad shape for a jug. That's better. Let's work on this. A nicer rim there. Little lump, so we showed you this trick earlier. If you're not quite happy with the top, just take it off. In and hold it, lift off, and voila, you have the perfect neat top now. Because I pulled that nasty lump to the top of the pot. Now I've got to go down and just shape this belly of this jug from the inside gently. The base can stay the same. But I need to come outwards as I come up slightly. If you widen the pot, it makes it a little shorter, because obviously if you stretch it out, it's bound to widen out a bit. If it widens out, the clay has to go somewhere. It doesn't just stretch. Pot shortens down a fraction. That's no worry for us. It's a nice shaped pot. Let's do a nice even spiral throwing up it again. There we are, give it a shoulder, just round it down. Oh, that's quite a nice shape. I want to get this nicer here. So as a jug, that would be about right. That's quite nice as it is, but I want to experiment a bit further. What I'm going to do is just get this nice rounded belly here. Shape. Come in a lot more on this neck. Collar it in. You see how you can actually move the top I can make it go as wobbly as that, look, and still bring it back because my hands are keeping still afterwards. If I bring it inwards, I can bring it higher upwards as well. So my idea is to pierce this top rim later. I could have finished this as a jug ages ago, so I'm still playing with it. Let's just trim that top again. Just put a mark on there then. Nice enough shape. So I can stop the wheel and I can take that off and work at it later, which I'm going to do. I push this upwards and just lift it off. Let's make a handle for the tall jug now. So here's my wedge of clay again. Put some water around it, slide my hand down, and we'll see what we can do. It's a very long handle for this jug. So, thumb one side and twice the other like that, the shape I want, and then make it narrower and longer. Thumb each side and thumb this side. You see the handle sliding down between my fingers now. It has nowhere else to go, providing I don't let my hand get too dry. Slide it down, keep the handle nice and wide and strong. Slide right down to the bottom edge. If you're not happy with the bottom, just break it off. And then down the back, keeping it wider at the top than the bottom. Now that's almost long enough for the handle I want. In this case I'm not going to put it straight on because it wouldn't support itself. I'm going to take it off here and lay it to one side on a bat, break it off at the top, put it into the sort of shape I think it's going to want to go. There we go, and that's going to be nice later. Just trim it off and put it on the pot.
be possible to start working on the jug if we're careful. Start by wetting my fingers. Have a jug of water nearby. And it's quite a simple technique. All I have to do is put 2 fingers this side and 1 the other, very similar to the way I just did that wavy line. And depending how far down I want to go as to the way this comes over. But let's start like that. 2 fingers on the outside, 1 on the in, and just curve it like that, look. Now, we could just finish at that and say, right, there's a lip. But let's go a little bit further with this one. Let's take him right down to here and open him up a little bit more and give a bit more of a curl to the spout. Outwards a bit at the edges, maybe a bit more. Curl him right over so he pours nicely. There, simple as that. A nice fresh spout to that jug. All I have to do now is put a handle back here and he's finished. Here you see a traditional one. And just above it, on this jar, another lip. And you'll note that the lip depends very much on the shape that it's put into. The casserole's ready to have the handles fitted and the lids made. So let's look at throwing the pot here. We throw the already wedged or kneaded ball of clay onto the wheel, which is called the throwing part in fact, so why it's called throwing the pot. Then we have to centre it. We centre it by putting one hand over the other and squeezing down, and holding the clay inwards with the outside like this, and squeezing it upwards. If we keep our hands still, the clay has to follow the line of our hands. So the idea is that there's no bump when we finish. The hand shouldn't be doing that. So if I squeeze at the base, the clay has to come upwards. And if I squeeze over the top, one hand over the other, it goes downward. Both of my arms are resting on the edge of the wheel here to help give support as well. Here, and the hands round it to squeeze, and one on top of the other to go down. And try and brace your muscles, try and keep your hands absolutely rock solid. Up and down until you're sure the clay is absolutely centred. Now, once you feel you've got the clay centred, there's absolutely no bounce here at all. I've got my finger there, there's no going in and out, it's still. Then we have to find the centre of the clay we've got with our thumbs and push our finger down the middle of this lump of clay, almost to the bottom, to the thickness of the base, and then come outwards inside. So push the top back in. As you notice, we've got the wheel going fairly quickly at this stage. The centrifugal force is always trying to push the pot outwards. You've got to keep it going inwards. Now, the taller the cylinder we can make, the bigger the pot we can make. So if I come upwards and then outwards, I'll have a bowl. If I come upwards, I have a vase, and so on. So first of all, I have to come upwards and slow down at this stage. Because the bigger the pot, the more centrifugal force. But we make a shape like that by putting the finger on the inside and the thumb on the outside and pushing in. And that ring there, look, we pull upwards. So all I've got to do is brace my arms against my sides and come upwards, keeping my fingers even. Again, if my fingers are made even and come off the top of the pot evenly, the clay must come upwards. Squeeze in the top again. Make that ring at the base. And come evenly upwards. Until you get a nice
even spiral coming up the pot. And the taller and bigger the pot, the slower we go. We just collar this pot, bring it inwards a bit. I'm going to make a bowl, quite a large bowl. Actually a slight bubble in there I want to remove. Stage, we've got our cylinder about the right thickness. We have to think about pulling it outwards, gently pulling it outwards to get the bowl shape. As long as our hands remain still and the pot is even, the clay should follow the movement of our hands. So, pour some water down our fingers inside the pot and outside the pot to keep the lubrication. And there we go again. Pull up and out. Make a bowl, fairly low bowl, and pierce the outside rim. Finally, this little session, I want to turn that big bowl that we saw earlier. Fry off the wheel. There we go. Put a plastic pot on top. A tin would do, a peat tin, but something large that would support the pot, because the bowl upside down will go beyond the wheel and damage itself on this. So I have to make an artificial wheel head which is higher. And the way I can do that is to use this plastic pot here, this plastic pot to go over the top. As you see, this is quite a large bowl, so we've got to do this operation quite carefully. I've put the plastic pot onto my other wheel head, which takes the different size bats, because it's going to support this pot a bit better. What I have to do now is turn the bowl upside down, careful as I can, and put it on top of here, because it has to be done leather hard. There we go. And get it as level on there as I can. Don't want to damage the inside of the bowl too much either, because it's going to be bound to be a slight mark from the rim of the, but we can spunt it out later. Now, it doesn't quite look level. I think we're about there now. The weight of it will hold it down on the side. Take a fair amount of clay off this one. Let's find our centre as well. The bowl is fairly thin in the middle. Just push it down a bit there and then cut in afterwards. Come round in a gentle curve because I know the inside bottom of the bowl is a gentle curve. The last thing you want to do is go to the bottom of the bowl. want to check the thickness of your pot, you can take a needle and press it through. Just feel where it goes through, and then refill the hole very easily afterwards. So if you're not sure about the thickness, you can always test it that way. See, now I've got a nice even roll shape coming around here. Stop the wheel a moment. Feel. Make sure it's not getting too thin, because you can actually feel, here you see it's quite soft, and here there's plenty of support yet. I can afford to take a good bit more off there yet. About it, I think. Back to the larger turning tool, just to I prefer to finish here with my finger, just to push in. I do want a nice foot rim under there. I need to go a bit more under there. Like a nice ribbon to get hold of when I glaze the pots. Just get my hand here to hold that, not easily, but it's possible. Flange, finish with my fingers. That's it. Now I just have to get it off there and back over onto its bat. This is another difficult part because it's now much weaker than it was, but much lighter. That'll come back into shape, don't worry. There we are. Lift it carefully and away we go. Finished turned mould.